Nestled deep within the emerald embrace of southern Indiana's Hoosier National Forest, near the sleepy town of English, lies Hemlock Cliffs. The 1.2-mile circular walk at Hemlock Cliffs entices hikers with spectacular views, towering cliffs, hidden caverns, gushing waterfalls, and imaginative rock formations carved by time. However, beneath its beauty lies a mystery: the unsolved disappearance of the Vandiver family, who were suddenly swallowed whole by the forest and never seen again. Despite 75 years since their disappearance, tales concerning the missing family of three continue to circulate in Crawford County, ranging from reasonable to downright weird. But beyond the surface of speculation, one name seemed to have immovable weight: William Messamore. This story begins with him. William Bill Messamore was born amid the rolling hills of Christian County, Kentucky, in December 1916. Details concerning his early life are virtually unknown. However, his criminal record reveals a sequence of offenses. At the age of 17, he was charged with bank robbery and served 3 years in prison before being freed in 1936. Just 2 years later, he was back in prison for another bank heist in Eddyville, Kentucky, earning a 10-year term. William crossed the state boundary into southern Indiana in 1947, having been given parole a year earlier. Driving through rural Crawford County, William noticed a deserted home set on a hill in Mifflin, Indiana. Now the entire region is known as Hemlock Cliffs. Despite his previous lengthy incarceration, his appearance was far from that of a downtrodden man. William arrived at the courthouse in nearby English, driving a beautiful car and dressed in a tailored suit. He paid cash for the deed to the property and moved in immediately. William's unexpected entrance into the close-knit hamlet raised suspicion among people, with his oddities and desire for solitude feeding the local gossip mill. William was similarly ambiguous about his job duties. His numerous business trips to Kentucky, where he would return with dazzling new cars and costly outfits, fueled their suspicions. However, William's seemingly unselfish gesture of charity gradually reduced the community's original reservations about him. In August 1948, the Vandiver family, which included 31-year-old Thomas Vandiver, his new wife, 44-year-old Beatrice, and her 16-year-old daughter from a previous marriage, Wanda Johnson, purchased a plot of land and a house just down the hill from William. That autumn, tragedy came when the Vandiver family's home unexpectedly burned down. With Thomas out of work and reliant on a modest $20 monthly veteran compensation check for income, the family had almost nothing. Even though the property had been destroyed by fire, William promptly stepped in to help. He not only purchased the burned land from the Vandivers, but he also offered them shelter in his home. He also offered to pay them to take care of his home and property while he was away on business travels. The trio agreed, gathered the little items they had saved from the fire, and moved into William's farmhouse. For 4 months, the arrangement appeared to be going as planned. But then, in January 1949, the Vandivers disappeared. On the 22nd, a distraught Pearl Pearson, Thomas's mother who lived nearby, marched into the sheriff's station, demanding that her son be checked out. She claimed that since early January, she had lost contact with him for unknown reasons. Investigators and volunteers promptly launched a search for the Vandiver family, scouring the cave-infested area. Locals, on the other hand, are pessimistic about their efforts. They cautioned that if the family died in one of the gaping pits, there was little hope for recovery. They stated that these were not typical shallow holes, but huge tunnels with inconceivable depths that swallowed small animals whole. The next day, William unexpectedly walked into the sheriff's office, his anger emanating from him. He demanded to know who broke into his house and why. When asked about the missing Vandivers, he denied knowing their location. What is his alibi? Another business trip had conveniently kept him away since early January. William made a shocking confession after learning of Wanda's dog's death. He acknowledged stopping the animal's incessant barking with a gunshot, his voice devoid of regret. Adding to the uneasiness, William occasionally referred to Wanda as his girlfriend. When questioned by authorities, William's mother, Dashie Colgate, revealed a horrifying fact. William visited at her Louisville, Kentucky home shortly before the Vandivers vanished, accompanied by a young woman described as his girlfriend, Wanda. According to Dashie, Wanda tore up 4 bed sheets and bled all over them during her brief stay. Then, one morning, they just went together and never returned. A second examination of William's property revealed some unsettling discoveries. Police discovered Thomas Vandiver's only shoes, burnt beyond recognition, in a wood stove salvaged from the Vandivers' burned-down home. A wildfire on the site had partially destroyed William's wheelbarrow and rug. And in the mailbox, Thomas Vandiver's much-anticipated letter, his monthly veterans' compensation check dated January 7th, went undisturbed. Despite the alarming hints, the absence of substantial evidence compelled authorities to release William. Indiana authorities uncovered an outstanding warrant for William's arrest in Kentucky, as well as a parole violation for neglecting to report, but they quickly recognized that William had fled again. Finally, on Valentine's Day, serendipity intervened when a Louisville, Kentucky police officer noticed William getting off a Greyhound bus. Although William was captured for violating his parole, Indiana police did not forget about the missing family. To ensure his return for questioning, they added the accusation of dog stealing, which stemmed from Wanda's terrifying statement concerning her puppy. William was extradited to Indiana. William, now back in captivity, refused to reveal the Vandivers' fate. His reason for fleeing? He claimed to have gone to a safety deposit box in faraway Olympia, Washington. Indiana police were intrigued and contacted local banks. The box did indeed exist. Its contents, upon forced disclosure, revealed $10,000 in cash, as well as a ring and pocket watch belonging to Thomas and Beatrice Vandiver. When confronted, William quickly admitted that another bank robbery had funded this hidden hoard. When probed about the jewels, William revealed a shocking truth. Thomas Vandiver was one of his participants in the crime. In William's twisted story, July 1948 was his first contact with Charlie, a mysterious foreigner who happened to be passing through English. Talk of money problems sparked a sinister idea. A bank heist, William suggested. Charlie, drawn to the allure of ill-gotten gains, became a willing accomplice. They chose a small Kentucky bank in Keville as their target after painstakingly scouting it for vulnerabilities. However, a critical component remained missing: the getaway driver. As luck or misfortune would have it, the Vandivers moved into William's neighborhood the next month. According to William, Thomas agreed to take the post because he needed money to support his family. On August 17, 1948, they committed the robbery. William and Charlie entered the Keville, Kentucky bank with weapons drawn and demanded cash. While Charlie aimed his gun at the teller and customers, William loaded several sacks of cash. With Thomas at the wheel, they made a clean getaway and drove to a rented Louisville, Kentucky apartment to divide the loot. The FBI assisted in confirming William's involvement in the heist in Keville, Kentucky. However, the investigation, aided by William's knowledge, revealed his true accomplices, Thomas Gore and Charles Stiegel, not Thomas Vandiver. Gore and Stiegel were eventually captured and sentenced to 20 years in jail. Despite the mounting evidence, William maintained his innocence and refused to accept any part in the family's disappearance. In his Corydon, Indiana jail cell, unconcerned about another looming bank robbery charge, he boasted to officers about hidden cash stashes buried away in Crawford County caves that would await him once he was released. The investigators quickly reminded him that armed robbery in Kentucky might result in a life sentence, and this was strike 3. The following morning, March 14th, shouting awoke Mrs. Basley, the Corydon sheriff's wife, who lived behind the jail. She rushed to investigate and discovered her husband and his deputy trapped in a cell. William had overcome them and escaped through a second-story window. The manhunt took authorities to the banks of the Ohio River. On the Indiana side, new footprints disappeared at a disturbed piece of mud where a boat had previously been anchored. William and his sailboat vanished, like smoke on the wind. But the hunt would not last long. Just hours later, a Kentucky sheriff discovered William at a roadside cafe along US 60. William, who was leisurely sipping coffee in a booth, went gladly. William, who appeared to be an expert at Houdini-style escapes, struck again while awaiting trial for the Keville bank robbery. In a Paducah, Kentucky jail, he overpowered the sheriff and his adolescent son, locking them in a storage cupboard before fleeing into the night. The next morning, authorities discovered him sleeping in a train car 40 miles distant. He was again returned to jail. William's destiny was decided in April after he pleaded guilty to armed robbery. However, before justice could be served, his Mifflin farmhouse burned down, perhaps deleting any secret evidence, while a local man called Howard King was found guilty of arson. He received no jail time. Long after their disappearance, rumors of Vandiver sightings remained. Wanda was first reported to be seen in Terre Haute, Indiana, in late 1949, and again in another Indiana city in the 1950s. In the 1970s, Thomas and Beatrice were reportedly said to have been seen in a southern Indiana cafe. Unfortunately, none of the reported sightings were ever substantiated. The Vandivers' disappearance inspired several ideas as to their whereabouts. Most people felt William was to blame, implying that he had disposed of their bodies someplace in the huge forest, possibly in one of the area's caves. Others assumed that Thomas Vandiver uncovered William's hidden treasure and fled with his family to start a new life. Even wilder stories suggested William's participation with the mob, a gang notorious for silencing embarrassing witnesses such as the Vandivers. If William was to blame, he died with the answers. He died from natural causes on February 12, 1986, at the age of 69. His body was donated to the University of Louisville's medical school. Thomas, Beatrice, and Wanda have never been located. May my condolences go to their family